All right, now we are going to talk about physical delivery. How you deliver your message is every bit as important as the actual words you say. You can have the best message in the world, but if you deliver it in a way that is boring or angry or aggressive, people won't understand. I've read that at least 70% of communication is non-verbal, and only maybe 30% of what you get across to people is actually the words that you say. So you can say the same words in a different tone. I think we all know that. If I go, great idea, man, that communicates one thing. If I say, great idea, that communicates something entirely different. Same words, different tone, different approach, different face, communicates something different. I think often people tend to make some very common mistakes when they're preaching. We're going to talk through some of those mistakes, but I also want to talk through how can we deliver our message well in a way that is engaging and interesting to the people we're listening to. There are three major aspects of physical delivery that I want to talk about. First is your voice. Second is your physical body. And then thirdly is your face. All of these are going to communicate different things, and you want them to be in harmony with one another. So let's talk about the voice first of all. There are a few components of how you use your voice that you want to be aware of. The first is your volume. You want your volume to vary as you speak. You don't want to always be shouting, right? We've all heard preachers who are always shouting. That gets exhausting. You don't want to always be talking so quietly that people can't hear what you're saying or they have to lean in. Sometimes you might want to elevate your voice if you're saying something particularly important that you really need to get their attention. And other times you want to lower the volume of your voice to make people lean in a little bit, as long as they can understand what it is that you're trying to say. So you also want to avoid, again, being at the same volume the whole time. If you struggle with volume, let me encourage you, probably the best way to increase your volume without a lot of extra effort is to speak. You've probably heard this, but speak from your diaphragm, right? It's an organ down here that helps push air through your lungs. In order to speak well from your diaphragm, you need to keep your shoulders back, and you need to in essence, breathe in and out from this part of your body, not from up here in your shoulders. So you take a deep breath from here, and that's going to allow you to project your voice louder than if you're breathing from here. You can see how when I'm trying to breathe from up here, I sound more nasally and less warm and full, and it's going to be harder for me to project. So you want to breathe from your diaphragm. You want to be able to carry through phrases as well. You should be able to say an entire sentence or at least a full phrase without breathing in the middle of it like I just had to do. All right, so you want to be able to carry your breath through. The second aspect of your voice is your pitch, whether you speak high or whether you speak low. I recognize some people have a naturally high voice, some people have a naturally low voice, some people's voices are in between. You don't always want to speak just at the same pitch all the time, especially if that pitch is high. So if you're a person that has a higher voice, you may again need to work on breathing from your diaphragm and work on varying your pitch just a little bit as you go up and down. Think about the difference between a question and a statement. Where are we going for lunch today? I varied my pitch to indicate to you that this is a question, right? If I say we're going to Chuy's for lunch today, my tone tends to stay mostly the same. What if I'm excited about going to Chuy's? We're going to Chuy's today, right? All of a sudden, I varied my pitch, I varied my volume a little bit, I even varied kind of my pacing, how fast, which we'll talk about in a minute, to communicate excitement. So you want to be aware of all of those things with your voice. The third one is your pace. If you talk too fast, people have a hard time understanding where you're going, right? On the other hand, if I talk too slow, people will lose the thread of what I'm trying to say and they'll fall asleep. So you want to vary your pace, and there may be appropriate moments to speak really slowly or really fast. But in general, you want to speak at a normal conversational pace that people can follow. You try to vary. Here's what I always say about voice, and this is true of body as well. Use your natural voice. Don't try to sound like somebody else, but use your voice in a way that is kind of the most energetic, focused version of your voice. So that's your voice. Let's talk about your body for a little bit. With your body, relaxed and natural is your goal. Relaxed, natural, but also focused. So when you approach the stage, you want to approach the stage with confidence, but not with swagger. You don't need to do this kind of thing with your shoulders, but put your head up, put your shoulders back, your arms at your side, walk at a good kind of brisk pace, like you know where you're going. You're confident, you know where you're headed, but you're not arrogant. It's hard to find that balance. Don't slump down, don't look at the floor, don't try to hide your hands, right? Keep your body language upright and focused, but also relaxed. When it comes to gesturing, your gestures should match what you're saying. When you're talking to your friends very naturally, that probably happens naturally. There are some people that just talk with their hands all the time and may have really repetitive gestures like this. There was a president many years ago that would do this when he spoke. And so it becomes a distraction because it doesn't really mean anything if I'm just constantly karate chopping as I'm speaking. So you want your gestures to actually reinforce what it is you're trying to say. So be aware of those repetitive gestures. Another thing to be aware of with gestures, when I'm standing in front of the congregation, remember that left and right are reversed from the perspective of the congregation. So if I gesture this way, I go to my right and to my left. The problem is, from the standpoint of the congregation, they see me gesture left and then right. It's reversed. So you have to remind yourself to reverse your gestures when you're facing people in a way that you don't typically have to do when you're just in normal conversation, if you want it to be understood. Be really careful not to pace. Don't pace back and forth, but instead move deliberately to one spot on the stage, talk to people on that side of the room, move slowly and deliberately back to the middle, talk for a minute, and then maybe you move to the other side. Make your movements relaxed and natural. Don't just go back and forth like a rat in a cage. That can get very distracting as well. Don't wave your arms, as we said. Make your gestures intentional, but you don't have to plan your gestures in advance. Don't turn your back to the congregation. Now, you may turn to the side, you may point at something, but you shouldn't ever have an instance unless you're making a point, a special point that requires it. Don't turn all the way backwards to the congregation where they're seeing your back. That, to many people, communicates some aggression and disrespect. So always be facing the people that you're speaking to. Let your body movements match your tone and your topic. If you're energetic, it's okay to lean forward a little bit, step to the edge of the stage, get excited with your voice, get excited with your hands. If you're in a more relaxed portion of the sermon, talk more relaxed, talk more conversationally. So that's your body. And then lastly, your face. Your face. How do you use your face? A few quick principles. First, eye contact matters. Make eye contact with people in the congregation and make eye contact with a few different people in every area of the room. Don't look at people's foreheads or hairlines. Don't look above everybody. Don't look down at the ground. And be really aware of only looking at one section. If your mom is there and she's really friendly, you might be tempted to just look over at your mom because you're getting positive feedback from her. But you need to look around the room at different people and hold eye contact for maybe a second to 2 seconds. You don't want to hold eye contact so long that it feels creepy to people, but you do need to hold eye contact long enough that people understand you're actually talking to people in the room. Eye contact matters. Keep your face relaxed and open. It is encouraged to smile at times as you're speaking. Smile with your eyes, all the way from your mouth to your eyes, to communicate, I'm friendly, I'm on your team. Make it natural. It shouldn't be a forced smile. And certainly if you're talking about something intense, if you're giving a sermon on hell, you don't want to be smiling a lot. But if you are giving a sermon on the grace of God, smile as you talk about the grace of God. That's a joyful thing. Always check your teeth and your nose before going on to stage. Make sure your teeth are brushed. If you need to floss, do so. Take one last look in the mirror. Make sure there's no lettuce or anything from breakfast that morning. Look at your nose. If you're sitting next to your spouse, have your spouse take a quick look at your teeth and your nose to make sure that nothing's wrong. If you're not, maybe carry a little mirror with you. Some of us, like some of you, you may have a mirror somewhere near the stage that you can just go check yourself in. I would encourage you to do that. Same thing with your clothing as well, actually. Check that your fly is up, check that your buttons are all buttoned, those types of things. And along those lines, here's the very last thing I want to say is a few notes about clothing. How do you dress when you're speaking? In general, here's the general principle. Dress one level nicer than the people you're speaking to. One level more formal. So if everybody's wearing t-shirt and shorts, maybe wear a polo shirt with nice khaki shorts. If everybody's wearing jeans and t-shirts, maybe you wear a shirt like I'm wearing today, kind of a button-up shirt with nicer jeans. If everybody's wearing slacks and a dress shirt, wear a suit and a tie, right? So go one level. Now, granted, if everybody's wearing suits and ties, just wear a nice suit and tie. You don't need to wear a tuxedo. But as a general rule, up to that point, dress one level more formal than the people that you're speaking to. If you're on an elevated stage or platform, be aware of how you're going to look to the people below. So just be aware of what you're wearing and what it may reveal or not reveal to the people below you. Make sure that it's appropriate for somebody with a view sitting right underneath you. Make sure your clothes fit well and they're comfortable to speak and move around in. As we get older, me included, we tend to sometimes gain a little bit of weight. We do want to, while we want to be mindful of that, it's also important to say, make sure I buy clothes that actually fit me right now, who I am right now. Not too tight, not too loose, but you want clothes that fit you comfortably and also are comfortable for you to speak and move around in. Avoid anything that's going to distract. Don't wear $700 shoes or something flashy or blingy that's going to distract people, real shiny, that's going to make people pay more attention to that than to the words that you're saying. Your goal is to be presentable, professional, but you want your clothes to be more or less unmemorable. You don't want people to leave talking about what you were wearing. You want them to leave thinking about what you were saying from the Word of God. And again, as I said, look in a full-length mirror before you go out to check if anything is off. If there's a stain, if there's a problem with your zipper, whatever it may be, just take one last look before you go out on stage. So again, that's your voice, that's your body, that's your face, that's your clothing. The goal is to present yourself in an interesting, engaging, and somewhat professional way so the words that you hear get through to the people you're trying to communicate with. We'll see you in the next session.